Hello again, second grade. I hope that you've been thinking about a creative building that you can make after we heard the story of Iggy Peck, architect, last week and saw all of the different creative buildings that he made. That is going to be our job for our next project. Now, of course, we can't actually build these buildings. Some of us might be able to, depending on the material. You can try that at home. So instead, we're going to be drawing these. But it's not just a drawing. We're actually going to be able to cut these out so that the buildings can stand up on their own. So for those of you working at home, if you have a heavier, thicker piece of paper, maybe even like poster board, that would be great. That means that your building will be able to stand up even easier. If you only have regular paper at home, that's fine too. That's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do today is focus on drawing our building out. So for that, you need your piece of paper, a pencil eraser, and I also have a Sharpie, which we'll get to in a couple minutes. So you don't have to pick a theme, but I do think it's really fun to pick a theme that kind of pulls your entire building together. So I'm going to make a building of art supplies. Of course, surprising, probably nobody. Now, the important thing about doing this project, I do think that this project works best with your paper up and down, but you can do it side to side. However, I do think up and down is best. And you want to make sure that you draw your building from the very bottom of the paper up. So you don't want it just floating in the middle. It's going to be really important to make sure that you have a completely flat edge on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my building out with pencil, and you'll notice I'm going to take up most of the paper when I do it to make sure that it's big enough. We don't want anything too teeny tiny since we'll be cutting this out eventually. All right, so I drew out my art supply building. So you can see I have, these are watercolor sets on the side, some colored pencils, some paintbrushes framing the door, and of course I'm going to make it as colorful as I can. So the last step that I'm going to ask you to take this week is to grab a Sharpie or a black marker and go over your lines. It's so important to see our lines clearly after we have colored everything in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hang on to this paper for next week and we'll continue on with our work then.